All right, we are live.
Perfect.
Welcome, everyone. Today we have myself. I guess I'm known now as Richard Presents, and I'm here with Starfield Eclipse. Very happy to be back together live. The last time we did this was just about 2 months ago for the StarCon event in January, which was a lot of fun. And we both agreed we would come back to talk in a live format. So this is the first time we've done this on our own. We're using different software, and we'll be doing our best to answer any questions you might have, and also talk about what's all going on with Starfield. So, Eclipse, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm great. I have to say, I've been nervous about this though, just getting it set up, trying to make sure that we have what we needed and it was going to work properly. So far, so good, I think. And let us know in the comments, those of you who are here and seeing it live, whether it's working for you.
So, what exactly are you excited about with the new update? I think we could probably start there. That's like the big news. I'm sure that's what everyone wants to see. Um, I have, I felt honestly when they came out on Tuesday, I felt like I got bombarded with 18 months worth of communication all at once. All at once. There was, like, interviews, there was, the big showcase they did, there was posts they were doing, all kinds of stuff, and it's just like, I need a moment to absorb all this because there are so many changes they're talking about, and I know, like, I heard a lot of them through the rumor mill. I was rather shocked that most of them didn't hit, like, mainstream, like, a lot of the big publications
Hmm.
didn't I think they were pretty much blindsided by this. A lot of people were talking about like Unreal Engine tweaks to Creations Engine, talking about loading screens, and that's not what we saw. What
Hmm.
we saw was like, hey, these are features that players have been asking for. These are friction reductions players have been asking for. It was a completely different direction, and like I think most of the active Starfield community probably knew what was coming, but I think that was probably the most shocking thing was like how the mainstream media did not see this coming and did not know it was coming, uh, considering like how many people were like there was leaks happening, but like none of them kind of hit like the mainstream. No one was talking about them. Did you find that interesting at all? Like, I
I
know, like, that was, like, fascinating to me.
I agree. It was overwhelming. I remember by 4:30 just feeling exhausted by everything that had happened during the day because I think around 10:30. So I'm doing my work for whatever, and then I checked in on some social media and I saw like in 20 minutes Bethesda is dropping news. Well, what 20 minutes? So then I spun up my paying attention mind, and it didn't turn off until later that afternoon. And even now we're getting these periodic videos or whatever from media
Yeah.
outlets. I think IGN might be the one now that's putting out a daily video and sort of a little bit of a deep dive into some of these features. So there's still a little bit of news that's coming out. And if Todd really wanted to hit you with something big all at once, I think he succeeded with that on or this week.
Yeah, I think that was the objective, was they were trying to, hit people with something big, and part of that was kind of, the lack of communication was to kind of build anticipation and slam people with something big, and they definitely did that. They succeeded in that. I know like I was reading interviews yesterday about talking about the changes to the procedural generation. I'm like, holy cow, I'm excited about this. And it's like a lot of stuff I've been talking about in videos for a while, adding cooldowns to proc to like the different points of interest within the procedural generation, adding more stuff. And then they're also tweaking and adjusting like the rarity filters on certain points of interest. So this is something that's like really exciting. It's probably the weakest part of Starfield is how repetitive that procedural generation can be. So I'm glad that they're making adjustments and that they're listening to the fans and how to adjust that. And they're not doing some knee-jerk reaction where they, delete 99% of the planets and we end up with like this very small but unique version of Starfield. I like the vastness. I'm sure you probably appreciate that as well. I know most people that do enjoy the game, they like that vastness of space, and that would just be lost if we tried to jam it down into like one or two star systems.
I agree. If you look at any of the creations mods, or just any mods that add any new quests or locations, the modders are doing a good job of spreading them around.
Yeah,
Occasionally, with smaller issues of like a kiosk or something, you'll get a lot of overloaded places in New Atlantis or whatever. But you play a milk artist creation or something, and they're spreading the POIs all over the place and filling in those
he
planets,
is.
which is
He
good.
is.
And just a
Very good
quick
job of
POI.
doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Just a quick note on the POIs. Prior to this week, I created a video. Actually, I don't know if I've actually recorded it yet, but anyway, I used a video that was unique POI names, and I'm blanking on who created it. Someone, if you want to put it in the comments, or maybe you remember Eclipse, but all this modder did was took a look at, for example, the 35 or so caves that are in Starfield. They're all called cave, and they're all unique, but they're just called cave. So I don't go to them because who knows what it's going to be. This modder gave each cave name a unique cave, like Twisty Cave, Dark Cave, Fungal Cave, whatever. Same thing with Industrial Outpost. There's like 7 of those, or um, uh, Pipeline Terminus. There's 5 of those. They're all different, but they all have the same name. So this modder just went in, and I think for 88 different locations, just added an adjective. So now or a slightly longer name so that it's unique. And I just played vanilla Starfield basically with that unique POI, and it seemed totally different because now I could look around and almost everything was different. So now I
Yeah.
don't know if it's going to work with the update, but yeah, just working on the POIs and what we see, and then our perception of what we see, I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Yes, I definitely think so, and I'm just thinking about that, like a civilian outpost. Like it has one name, but there's like
Yeah.
20 different versions of the civilian outpost. Uh, I think that probably leads people to believe like, oh, there's only one civilian outpost out there. No, they just reused civilian outpost over and over and over again. Maybe that's an error Bethesda made by using kind of like generic names for things
Mhm.
instead of being a little bit more specific. Um, but yeah, that's one of those things that goes to help out. And like when people are exploring, they scan that point of interest. They go, oh, I've already been to the civilian outpost. I don't need to go back.
Yep.
And meanwhile, it's a different civilian outpost. That's something like definitely the proc gen portion that they were talking about is extremely exciting. I know cruise mode is extremely exciting for me because that is something like you can get it wrong or you can get it right.
Mm.
And that all comes down to adding a content manager because space travel, it seems it's one of those things that can be very immersive, but it can also be very boring. You can be just
Mhm.
traveling in a straight line for 15-20 minutes, nothing going on except for empty space. But if you add a content manager that's going to inject events and make it interesting, that's what's going to make it a game changer. And I'm glad they did it right. I can tell that was their intention from the beginning, was to have people to be able to travel interplanetary. Um, the reason I can tell that is because if you ever downloaded Astrogate and you
Mhm.
fly close to some of the stars, you'll see like they have these amazing textures. It's like they have amazing textures because they intended us to fly close to these
Hmm.
and actually look at them. So that's something like I know they had it planned from the beginning. I'm guessing they just could not figure out how to load in the events to make it interesting. So they opted for a fast travel system instead. But I'm glad that they double backed, went around. They figured out how to get the system working, where we could inject events. I know modders are going to be piggybacking off that because, like, it's basically just a start. But like it's like the planetary content manager for. Like we see a lot of those POI packs, we're going to see space POI packs where people are going to
Mm.
be injecting stuff into that cruise mode content manager and basically, you know, making it better and better and better and more varietous. So,
Do you,
um, I have no clue how many different events they have in there, but
yeah.
over time, modders will add more.
Do you recall seeing anything about being able to leave your ship? Because that's something that there are some mods that will do that. Tiny Reasons to Explore Space is the one. ZW Airlocks is another one. But I don't know if I saw anything in any of the material that has come out yet. because I think that's something people would really like. That and building space stations, because that's in the game, right? There's cut content there. There's a mod that allows you to build your own star station, but those are two that are associated with being a space game that I'm not sure we're going to get in this content yet.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get it. I didn't see anything about it, but like you said, there are mods out there that I use that ZW Airlocks myself. Um, but you would like to see like some content around that. That tiny reasons to explore space that gives you the content around it.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I mean, they expressed their intent to continue developing Starfield for years to come. So who's to say that that's on the next docket to be added to the game? Um,
Yeah, that was my takeaway from Machismo Gaming, did a great interview. It's so funny. He talked about how he wasn't prepared for it, and please forgive him for not being prepared. His interview was as awesome as anybody's, right? It was a good one. And
it was amazing.
yeah, and he pulled that out of Todd that this is not the end for Starfield. And the same thing we heard with another interview with Todd and then a third one with Tim Lamb. There is more Starfield planned after April 7th, which that was what I was wondering. I was fully, okay with this might be it. Okay, we go into maintenance mode or they do some type of anniversary edition or something in the future and that's kind of it for a while. I would be, okay with that and then modders take over, but it sounds like they have more stuff planned.
Yeah, it sounds like they have some exciting plans. I know myself, I was kind of thinking like, well, they're probably not going to do a lot of feature adding in the future, but you can cut off a small team of 5 or 6 people, give them 12 months and say, hey, develop a story for us and make like a story DLC. And that's kind of how I figured it was going to go. But I am actually like, I am very excited that they are committed to this. It's going to be a lot of difficult work on Bethesda's part because they have to like balance this with development of like Elder Scrolls 6,
Mhm.
eventually Fallout 5, and it seems like they kind of have like this rotation style in place where they're going to go through seasons. Like the next season's probably going to be Elder Scrolls 6, where they'll be developing that, and then they'll probably double back, do a little bit of work on Starfield, and then start Fallout 5.
Mhm.
But yeah. What am I thinking about this? Uh, it's an interesting development strategy to do that, kind of like this round robin instead of, we're going to be developing all these things all at once and have like teams that are scattered all over the place. You
Yeah.
end up with people that know how Starfield works, they know how Elder Scrolls 6 works, and they know how Fallout 5 works. I think one of the most interesting things I heard Todd say, and I don't think not many people have been talking about this, is that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be on what they've termed the Creation Engine 3.
Yeah.
So that tells me that they've had to customize Elder Scrolls 6 or customize the Creation Engine enough for Elder Scrolls that they need to, tack on a 3 on the end. So that's interesting. And I think that's where the Unreal Engine kind of hybridization came from. I think
Mhm.
I think that's where it's happening. I think it's for development for Elder Scrolls 6, and that's somehow, the context was lost and people tied it with this upcoming development. But I think that's like I don't think that's completely false. The whole UE being kind of merged with and like taking that Unreal technology and applying it to the creation engine. I think that's just for the future for Elder Scrolls 6, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Hey, let me take a minute just to say hello to all of our people leaving comments. It's so good to see everybody. Superstar ad 93. See, you guys, you all need simpler handles here. Maz the Mad Mage, Riley Winston, never mind guesses. The one Richard. See, there's more than one Richard. Curtis Creations, Ahoy Malloy. Man, how many people do we have in this? So I can't see like a list of who's in and all that. Oh, Nikki, hey there. Nice to see everybody. Carbel Snarky, hello, hello. The Ajong 997, hello. Yeah. So I have to say thank you everyone for being here. This is because we were talking about, would we get 5 people? If we got 5 people, I think we'd feel pretty happy about people joining us on a Saturday like this. And for those of you who are watching the recorded form, hopefully that worked out as well. I guess if you can see it, it did work out. So talking to our future selves here. So I took tons of notes here. There were certain things we wanted to mention. We spoke just briefly before going live. NPC Muria. Who else is happy that she is going to be a full-fledged NPC? I know you are, Eclipse, right?
I am super excited, and that's because I heard the voice actress talking about it. It's being developed primarily by Kris Takahashi. He's a legendary modder. He created interesting NPCs for Skyrim, and was hired on by Bethesda. He's created some of our favorite quests. So Lost and Found, and the follow-up quest from that, beautifully made.
Just to interrupt, sorry, that's in Shattered Space. So if you don't like Shattered Space, you might be missing one of the best side quests, in my opinion. I really love that.
He's done that set of 2 side quests there. Yeah. There's a second one. I think it's a House Divided. He did that. It's very beautifully done. If you did a House Divided, do it again on NG+. See how it changes, and you'll see the mind of Kris Takahashi. He's kind of a brilliant, what I would say, quest designer and storytelling. He tells such interesting stories. And there's stories like, it's not like copy and paste, like I stole The Hobbit and I jammed it into a quest. It's something unique, and it's usually like Lost and Found kind of like reaches down to like the heart of a person. Like you'll feel emotional playing through that, and it's mundane stuff, and he just does it in such a wonderful way to kind of like reach the heart of the player. If you didn't like.
I think you have to be of maybe a certain experience in life to really have that hit, though. Like if I were in my 20s and I did that Lost and Found, it's different, right? Now that
it would probably be boring.
Well, yeah. If you have parents who are going through that, or other sort of elder people who are going through that sort of situation, it's like, wow, that one hits really hard.
I think probably once you hit around like 35, you've probably had like a grandparent pass away or a parent themselves, and you're probably going to relate really deeply to that. I would agree. Like younger people might not catch the emotional depth of that. They haven't had enough life experience for it, but I think a lot of people are really going to appreciate that story, and that's kind of what excites me about like that new companion. I know I am straight up. That's the first companion I'm going with, just because I love Kris Takahashi's work, and I want to showcase it because I know that's going to be some really quality work, and that character is going to be very interesting.
So we've had a lot of people asking about breaking mods, and I know this is something you put out a whole video on. So I'm just going to give my 2 cents, then I'm going to turn it over to you because you've said a lot about this. So if you are playing a version of Starfield that depends upon the script extender, so you're on PC and you're doing that, it's going to break day one, because I doubt the script extender authors have access to the code that's coming down the pike. Even if they had a beta, they typically don't update the script extender for a beta. They only wait for the release to publish, then they spend a few days, and then they update the script extender. So if you have mods that depend on script extender, they're definitely going to break day one. Outside of that, now it starts to become more complicated. If you have DLL-based mods, those will probably break. They don't always do, but there's a good chance they will, because you've had to reverse engineer the Starfield binary to find the right addresses. The address library needs to be updated. So the more mechanically the game gets altered by whatever mod you're running, the greater the chance that that mod will need an update. Outside of that, it might not be too bad, but that's my piece, and I'll turn it over to you because I know you've said a lot about this.
Yeah, I think just to start, if mods don't break and everything's perfect, you should be asking, what the heck did they actually change? So expect mods to break. That means they've actually updated like the core systems, and they're doing things. That's a good sign. As far as like what to do, what I would suggest is, one, you either have a clean save. I have clean saves. I know the second you install a free mod, something that's not achievement friendly, your saves will split, so you'll have two separate saves. So you'll probably could be able to revert back to that if you don't have one. One of the other methods is going to be get yourself right before the Unity before this drops, because the Unity it's basically a save file scrub, so you can remove any toxic mods that have broken, jump through the Unity, it's going to scrub them from your save. You'll be able to continue playing. One thing I would be cautious about is if you're running things like Darkstar, which is a progressive endgame mod, if you do that, you will lose your progression on that. So, and this is going to be one of those things where like you might want to boot it up and see how broken is it. Can I keep this in my save file and not really impact my game? Darkstar, you're probably going to still be able to play with it. There's just going to be some things going a little wonky, especially because they added new weapon tiers, and I know that's one of the things Darkstar does is it adds new weapon tiers. So there's these new weapon tiers that are overlapping with what he's already done, and that's going to be a little bit wonky. And I think they also added a fourth special effect slot for like weapons. So I know he's going to have to do adjustments on that. But yeah, basically my suggestion to players is, one, you either have a clean save. If you don't have a clean save that you're willing to play with for like the first week or so, you have a character standing right in front of the Unity. Myself, I'm going to, like, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and boot up my modded out save and see what happens, just for curiosity's sake, because I know a lot of people are going to have a ton of problems, especially with their mods, and they're going to want to know how to figure this stuff out. But the primary thing is going to be get yourself in front of the Unity, so that when you are ready to boot up, you can drop whatever mods that have become toxic in your game file. And
Can I interrupt you just for
Go
one
ahead.
second? So just someone asked in chat, how do I know if a mod uses SFSE? So first of all, you have to be on PC. There's no SFSE for console. Go to the SFSE mod page, which I linked, and look at mods requiring this file. So you can, or is it mods requiring this file? Yeah, mods requiring this file. And just look, all the mods that list SFSE as a dependency will be there. And if you don't use any of those mods, then you're fine. The second thing is, just quickly, there are a few mods that are free that will allow you to go from wherever you're at in a game directly to Unity. So Cheat Terminal will do that. And I think Old Man's Beard, whatever that mod is. These are two mods that I was looking at making videos on because I was wondering if this might be an issue for people. So either one of those, but this is on console, by the way. Just on PC, you could just enter in a COC MQ Unity and just go there right away. But you might want to have that in your back pocket as well if you're not in a place where your character is ready to go to Unity, but you're like, oh, geez, my save is broken. Can I go straight to Unity? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and for the most part, with like the exception of like some deep progressive mods like Darkstar, you could basically just drop your whole load order right at the Unity, step through. Your whole save will be scrubbed and cleaned, and you're not going to face too many repercussions. The only thing you need to be a little bit cautious about is those mods that add end game progression. Darkstar is one of them, but there's several others out there that kind of address what I would call a lack of an end game for Starfield. Kind of like ends at like level 65. All the mechanics start breaking down, but those mods you might want to be. In like the Darkstar Discord is going to be like a great resource. I know there's a lot of people, like, anytime I have a modding question, I ask it there, and someone will respond back really quickly, like how to resolve it. Just show a little bit proper etiquette on that Discord, because they have a lot of traffic. And they get people asking stuff in like the wrong channels, and it's like we have a specific channel for mod help, and they'll respond really quickly to you, especially if you have information, like if you have like your full load order in like an Excel document or even just a simple notepad, people will go through it and be like, "Oh, here's how you reorder this things." And I'm sure at the time when Terran Armada drops and free lanes and that stuff, there'll be people there that are more than willing to go, okay, you need to remove X, Y, and Z from your load order. This is going to make it run a lot smoother while those are getting fixed and addressed. I think one other thing to kind of set expectations is paid mods. Paid mods have a QA process. So free mods, they're going to be fixed really quickly. Mod authors will address that really quickly. We'll figure out which ones were abandoned like 6 months ago and no one's touched. Of course, they'll just never get fixed. But the ones that are actively still being worked on and stuff, they'll be fixed and up and running really quickly. The paid mods are probably going to take like a month because they're going to have to go through a QA process and it's going to be backlogged with every paid mod.
Yeah.
You just need to kind of just bear with it for a little bit. And for good purposes. I mean, that QA process is there for a reason. It's to prevent, you know, Bethesda getting sued for charging money for intellectual property. Someone could sneak like Star Wars stuff in there, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, we're dealing with like a lawsuit from Disney or something. Which
Hey,
they don't care as long as it's free. But the
yeah.
second you start charging money for their intellectual property, they get a little ticked.
Do you play on console or PC or both?
I play on both.
Okay.
So
Do
I
you just for console, do you do anything to prevent an update? Because I've never done that. I've never tried to prevent an update on console.
um you probably can, but I've never done it
Okay.
myself. So I've never prevented an update. Um I think in this scenario, like probably the best bet is going to be like a Unity jump clean out, or just play on a clean save.
Mm.
I think most console players, you probably should have a clean save and probably have a modded out save. And I think most players do, because like a lot of console players, they really care about their achievements. So they'll have like
Mhm.
this clean save that they use for achievement getting, and they have like their modded out save that they use for fun. Um, so I'm
If
sure most players inadvertently are going to do exactly that. They're going to go to their clean save so they can get all the achievements that have been added through free lanes, and then also Terran Armada. And then they'll revert back to their modded out save after they've played through those things. And it'll happen to line up perfectly to like, the fix cycle on getting everything through QA.
Yeah. So on Steam, the method I use to try to prevent updates is to find the right .acf file, make it read only, and that seems to work. I'm trying to remember what because the last update we had was what in August of last year, so it's a long time.
Yeah.
I seem to remember there were some issues, but do you have any tricks for preventing updates on Steam that you like to use?
I've never done that. I only use my PC copy for testing mods, honestly, and
Okay.
it's mods that I'm writing and developing. So, I like playing this game on a couch, to be
Okay.
honest. So, and I work all day on a computer, so I love console gaming and getting off of a computer for a bit.
Have you considered this? This is a little off topic, but have you considered a Steam machine when they come out, supposedly this year?
I have considered it. I'll definitely think about it. Like I have a large Steam library of a lot of different games, um, and I think that's honestly what I'm looking for out of my console is more of a PC console hybrid.
Mm,
I like a couch experience, but I would also like to be able to use that machine to, go access my banking and do my bill pays and stuff like that as well. So I don't have to have some giant ass desktop sitting here
like
taking
I
up
have here.
space. So I have one. It's right next to me. Uh, so I think that's kind of where consoles are going in the future is more of a hybrid. But I also see a place where we get to a virtual console. I don't know how I feel about that, but
Mm.
it definitely seems like the cost of hardware is increasing so rapidly and so fast that I could see a future where people are primarily playing games on a virtual console on a server somewhere.
As a networking person, I'm a little suspicious that we'll ever get latency down enough for that. At least, well, maybe for most people it'd
Yeah.
be okay, but I don't know. Let me hit up a couple questions that we've had that have come up with this. Question is why? Why do free mods get fixed faster? It's because they don't have to go through QA,
Yeah.
right? Um, oh, good comment here from Dave Wilkins. Switching off auto update on the Xbox and trying to play offline. That's a way that you can avoid getting the update. So that might be the way to do it. I think Doc
One
said
thing
the
I
same
would
thing.
warn people about playing Starfield offline. You can do it. You can absolutely do it, but the timestamps on your saves get screwed up. So you
Oh,
will have to like manually add like a note like this save is this timestamp. It like reverts back to like 2009 or something, some kind of like
mm.
default time. So that's something I would warn players about if you're going to play in like an offline mode and keep your load order and not and wait for free lanes in Terran Armada to enjoy it with mods.
Mm.
Just have like a pen and piece of paper to write down your saves, or you're going to get lost.
Who else noticed the timestamps on the saves changed with daylight savings here in the U.S.? Anybody? Because I keep track
Yeah.
of what's what. And I couldn't find these saves, and they're all off by an hour because I guess it was going off a local time on the computer. Anyway, okay, so I've got what else do we want to hit up here? Oh, speaking of cool new things, animation tools. So first we had a new animation framework to replace the abandoned animation framework. Um, so there's a Polish modder who put out two new versions of that. But then now we have actual animation tools that go beyond that. This is beyond what I'm able to talk about, but I think tons of people are super excited about this. I think we might have already seen the first mod that came out, or at least there was a demo. I think somebody made a BB-8 robot to take advantage of these new animation tools. Do you want to say anything about that, or even maybe some of our participants here can say say something about it?
Uh, I know there's a couple different sets out there. Technology is getting really crazy with programming and coding right now with AI coding agents. So like development is able to progress so much faster. I think it was I know one of them. I spoke to him. Forget his name right now. It starts with a D. It's like DEV.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's the author for one of the tools. So that is something that's super exciting because I've actually talked to several mod authors that said the second they get animation tools, dogs are on the table.
Mhm.
Pilotable mechs are on the table. It's all on the table. They just need modding tools, and this is one of those things. Like I'm very excited for the future. I know a lot of people get like kind of like really antsy about like AI. And I think that's partially job security concerns and stuff like that. But it's allowing us to do things that we previously would have taken 6 months of work to do. Can be done in like a week. In This is just awesome that we're able to build out a lot of different tools and do this quickly so that mod authors can do things that they can't do within the creation kit. Now, I will say, I don't know if this stuff was made using like AI agents or like Codex or Opus. I just know I myself have been personally using it to kind of do my own coding work, and I've been progressing very fast through stuff. And I just find the technology amazing.
So here's what we were talking about. This is the release of animation tools by Calavera and other people as well. These are just this is the modder who put the post here, but there's other tools here, and they're all on GitHub now. And I hope y'all can see this. Um, oh, okay, I see what. Okay, I have to remove and then. Anyway, so if you want to know more about this, this is what we're talking about, and this will allow people to create brand new animations for Starfield and not require the SFSE, by the way. So the mods created by these tools will be available on console as well, this is just huge.
It's amazing. Like that, this just opens up like a whole new world. It's basically, you don't need the Starfield script extender to do custom animations now, which is just it's massive. Having like Starfield script extender, you have like this massive dependency, and like I'm sure you're familiar. Every time there's an update, it goes down for a few hours minimum. Whereas like, if you're on console, you might get like 1 or 2 mods glitch out, but having, hundreds of mods that are dependent upon this drop all at once, you see a lot of PC players like in a panic when updates happen because like their whole loader has turned to trash.
Yep. Speaking of issues with mods, have you been playing the Trackers Alliance at all?
I was actually planning on playing that this evening.
Okay.
So,
Just you might want to watch out. Other people have had, they've been okay. I tried doing the Widow mod or the Widow mission, and the very first part of it is you have to investigate a body. And after you get a key from the body, you're supposed to look at a computer, and that was broken for me. It's almost like the script for running, looking at the computer is missing or not activating. So I've just tried a different one, and I did another one, and it was fine. So that's, and then also XTC Refugee and a few other people, I think Cyber Psyche mods also saw that in one of the missions, there's a level of detail missing, which is just a cosmetic thing. So I have a feeling that Bethesda's going to have to bundle up a few of these fixes. So we'll get an update to that probably in the next week or so, hopefully.
probably something else that we should discuss is when free lanes does drop, I expect there to be some bugs in there. Bethesda's they usually drop big updates like this, and then like a week later they'll drop a hot fix as well. So like that's to be expected. I know a lot of people make a big like hubbub about like defects and bugs, and so just chill out. They'll fix it. Just report it to them. And things will get corrected.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of, so I work in software and have now for, I don't know, few decades, almost 30 years, I think. And it's amazing. Anything works at all, and all software has bugs. It's just that when you have something like Starfield or any game where there are millions of players, at least in the initial phases, well, we maybe, it's going to be interesting. Well, you know what? Let's talk about that. Let's go to your discussion, or let me just finish my thought. We're going to have bugs. People are going to find them, and hopefully the vendor will fix them. Now, speaking of the number of players, let's talk about your research into player counts. This is something that you've been looking at quite a bit,
Oh
and
my.
this is very interesting. So I'm going to try to get some background stuff on the screen while you do an intro to what your latest research on player counts is.
So, at least looking at things, I mean, Nexus has been growing steadily for months now, and it seems very stable growth. And it seems like it has its moments where it accelerates. Like when Star Wars Genesis was very popular, that was one of those moments where we saw like Nexus increasing in mod downloads. We could see that. But when we look at daily counts of like play sessions on Xbox, I'll just read the numbers. So Daymog on March 15th, this is before the announcement, it got 72,000 play sessions. And then on the 16th, it got 133,000 play sessions. On the 17th, it was 144,000 play sessions. And then on the 18th, 146,000. It peaked there. That I find is just insane. Like it's higher than like in April, it was showing above 100,000, but it's now progressed above that. So we're at levels right now where we're seeing like play sessions that it's literally doubled in the past week. So we went from like 72,000 to 146,000. A lot of players are coming back to the game just with the news of the update itself. So we can see in that post there, that was from like a week ago, and we were floating around like 50 to 60,000. The numbers are double that now. All Bethesda had to do was come out, make that announcement, and players are sweeping back into one. They're probably playing the Trackers Alliance quest. I heard they're pretty good. I haven't played them yet. I've kind of saved myself from spoilers, but I had some people say that it's like some of the best work they've done content-wise. Oh, Swerve, that's a nice fellow there. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's on Twitter all the time, loves to rile up people that do not like Starfield. But The play session counts are just staggering right now, and I expect them to continue to rise. And one thing that I this is still up in the air. We don't know how this is going to play out. Is creations for PlayStation. So right now, I'm currently running a scraper. It's on GitHub. I've made it public. So if you find my X account, I've posted it right there. So there's a link to it. You can run the scraper yourself. You can change the target. So if you want to measure different mods very easily, you can do that. But what was I getting at? Very exciting times. Oh, I already have the scraper set up to get PlayStation creations if they come. We do not know if that's going to happen. I don't know if, Richard, you've heard anything about creations for PlayStation. I'm very hopeful. I think at bare minimum, Bethesda published titles will be available. So I'll be able to actually measure how many PlayStation users are logging in and they're grabbing these creations. They're adding them to their load order.
Yeah, it's
So
going to be
that's gonna
really.
be
Yeah, I'm sorry. So there's a couple of layers to this. One will be, will we get a bump? So the number one metric people look at, which is false, unfortunately, is Steam count. Will we get a bump in Steam count from this? I think we will. I think people will come back and play this on Steam. So that will be one thing. But then how many PlayStation players are we going to get? Like we already know, like or maybe this was just privately we talked about. PlayStation edition of Starfield is the number one pre-order now, right? You told
yeah,
me, right? So that's
it's
amazing.
number one.
Yeah.
For the past 6 months, I've been seeing people in my comments section. I cannot wait for this to be ported to PlayStation. And a lot of the tone from PlayStation users has turned from kind of negative to positive, and I think that comes down to a lot of people had the expectation that this was going to be available on all platforms at launch. And then that kind of got soured where they made it this Xbox exclusive launch. And a lot of people weren't happy about that. I can understand. Bethesda's games traditionally have been across all platforms. And
Mm.
this was kind of the first time that it was restricted, where we had an exclusive. I'm very excited that PlayStation players are going to get to enjoy this game. In fact, they're going to get to play it in a better state than we played it.
Hmm.
They've added so much to it. They've fixed a lot of the defects. There's been tons of optimizations that have gone on. So they're going to get a lot smoother experience, a lot better experience, and they're going to get all the fun stuff from free lanes. So your first playthrough is going to be more authentic and closer to probably what Todd Howard's original vision of Starfield was. And
Yeah.
over the course of probably the next decade, we're going to see that vision slowly come to fruition, because this is just a massive game in general, and it's a ton of work. I see why they're doing things the way they do.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't, I mean, I've done some videos on this. It's not something I talk about that much compared to the mod growth stuff, but I've got on the screen here now my Xbox top 40 achievements rank. This is something I've been tracking. I don't remember when I first started it, and then I went back and I backfilled all the numbers. This is from trueachievements.com. So they're a website where they look at essentially Xbox players, and then they give a top 40 ranking every week. And so what I did was I went back and looked at games that were Starfield plus games that were, Starfield adjacent. Cyberpunk 2077, Skyrim, Fallout 76, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Baldur's Gate 3, No Man's Sky, Star Wars Outlaws, Oblivion Remastered, and Outer Worlds 2. And each week I update this chart. And the amazing thing about Starfield, that people always talk about Starfield had a bad launch, buggy mess. It's just they're just regurgitating their own delusions or their whatever they heard from their favorite rage tuber. On this chart, you'll see Starfield debuted at number 1. It knocked out all of the games that are always the number, the top 10 games. If I showed you, you'd see them all. Roblox, Minecraft, whatever. Starfield was number 1 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row. 6 weeks, Starfield was number 1. And then you can see it was in the top 20 for how long. And it ended up going on this run for, I think it was a 65-week run where it was in the top 40, except for these 3 weeks, April 7th, April 14th, and 28th of April. and then it's been gone. So I'm wondering, will Starfield come back into the top 40? And this does happen from time to time. So, for example, Fallout 76 has been pretty steady. Well, not steady, but it's made appearances back and forth. Cyberpunk 2077, it will jump in when it gets a new update, and then it disappears. It's happened several times now. Fallout 4 jumps back in when the TV show was strong, and then it disappears. Baldur's Gate 3 has made appearances here and there. Cyberpunk 2077 has come back now strong because it's on Game Pass. So this is the one I'm paying attention to see, does Starfield reappear on this list? Maybe even just due to this news. It's possible, because there is another metric I check, which is the Microsoft has a listing of what games people are playing as well. So Starfield, appears here and there. But yeah, this is something I'm going to be looking at. If we see Starfield come in anywhere in the top 40, if not this week or next week, but the week of the launch, that'll be a good sign for
I
those of us on
expect it
console.
will. And mainly that's due to there will probably be new achievements for people to get. I believe like this. I like how you have it ranked with peers because one of the things I've noticed about True Achievement is just the way they kind of score things. It favors newer games opposed to older games because if you're not adding new achievements, people might be playing, but they got all the achievements, so they're not unlocking anything new. And it'll only kind of like trigger if you're cycling new players in and they're getting their achievements and stuff. So I expect it's going to pop up, one, because it's going to be bringing in new players, and two, the existing player base are going to have new achievements to get, and they're going to be triggering kind of this true achievement metric, which is driven based off of like the Xbox achievements.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk for a second about DLSS 5. So let me throw this into the stage here. Here is the little, can we see that? Hopefully you all can see that. This is the little video that highlighted what DLSS 5 on and off looks like, as presented by NVIDIA. And I'll play it one more time here. And then after this, I will bring up one of the comparison images they have, which is Marika. It's just a still from Marika. So there we go. There's been there's been a lot of hyperbole around this. People who are just jumping on the hate bandwagon. But there have been a few good videos where people have looked at specific issues that they might have with this. So let me remove that and let me just bring up the picture of Marika. Let's see. There she is. Okay, so here's the picture of Marika. This is default Starfield, and Starfield has a definite look.
Yes.
With the fully developed NPCs. Although the lighting here, I mean, this is, as far as materials and stuff go, I think that's pretty impressive. But as far as the facial visuals go, and then of course, if you just look at stock NPCs in the New Atlantis, whatever, you can get the the meme-worthy videos that people create. And then we'll slide left here, and now this is with DLSS 5 on. So I think the first thing that strikes me is, and a lot of people have said the same thing, it ages all the NPCs. And part of it, I think, is like you see Marika there, she has gray hair that sort of gets missed, or it's not really that obvious. And then the second thing is it tends to accentuate the facial lines that people have. So you can tell right there, they sort of are a lot softer with the standard. But then once you turn on DLSS 5, it really accentuates the facial features, and so people tend to look older because the lines in their face get more pronounced.
My understanding is what it's doing is adding like photorealistic textures and redoing the lighting, so those geometries, like the wrinkles in the face, become way more visible than they were. Starfield has very flat textures, I would say. So Starfield, from like all the games they showcased, I think Starfield actually benefits the most from DLSS 5. But I think probably the first thing I would say is this takes a very high-end graphics card to run. So this is not a problem that average gamers really need to get hyped up about. Is like, you don't need to worry about DSL or whatever, it's DSL L5 or
Well, this
DLSS 5, whatever it's called. But
yeah.
like you need like a full, like, what's the graphics card requirements on that? I believe
Well,
they were running it on 2 graphics cards.
yeah. So here's the thing though. That was a tech demo. They're not gonna. They were using two 5090s, but they're not going to need two 5090s for this because nobody has those. I mean, you can. I mean, you would be. You know, you'd sell one just to get the money at this point. What they're going to end up doing though is putting it on a single GPU. The question is it going to have to be a 50 series GPU? Because if it's just 50 series, okay, there's plenty of those out there. But I just bought my 40 series 2 years ago. So, given what they've been doing, backporting features to previous GPUs, they're pretty good about that. NVIDIA is, but the problem is at what performance cost. So could I run it on my 40 series? Probably. How will it look? Or what's the hit going to be in FPS? It might be too much. Well, it really does come down to how intensive this thing is going to be. The other thing I think could be the VRAM requirements. So you may need, say, 12 gigs of VRAM. And if you don't have that, it's just not going to, work for you.
Yeah. So so I think that's probably where we should start, is like, this is a problem that most gamers are not going to have. The whole debate whether this is AI slop or not, it's like you're just not going to experience. You're not going to have access to high end graphics cards. Like myself, I'm probably not going to worry about this for like the next 5 years, before it gets down to the point where it's like standard. But one of the things I'd also like to kind of point out is this is a tech demo, and typically when you do tech demos, you push things to the extreme. So this probably has this feature turned all the way up. And
Hmm.
I saw a few people on X posting pictures like, what if we turned this down to like 30%? And they produced a picture of like what the in between was at like 30%, because this is going to be something that's adjustable by the developer. They could turn it all the way up like we're seeing here in the demo, where it's kind of like cranked to the max, but it could be a lot lighter touch. And I know there's a whole hubbub about this being generative AI. It technically is. It is very constrained generative AI. So it's being constrained in a way where it's going to produce a predictable result. But I have absolutely no problem with artists using generative AI as a tool to enhance their work. And this is what this would be. It would be a tool to enhance their work. It's not redoing the geometries. Um, it's not changing anything. It's just changing, well, it's changing the lighting effects, and it's also adding some photorealistic textures into there to make those lighting effects better. But is this something that's going to replace the artist? No, this is something that's going to be a tool for the artist to use. So that's kind of what I see it as. And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you can just turn it off on your end. So
Yeah.
it's completely optional for the developer, and it's completely optional for the player, and it's adjustable. So what we're seeing here is probably it turned all the way up so people can easily see the difference between
Hmm.
on and off. But what actually comes to market is probably going to end up being a lot more subtle than what we're seeing here.
I'd like to apologize, by the way. I didn't realize that this was not on, what's it called? It was not added to the stage when I was looking at it. So hopefully y'all can see it now. All right. Let me see if there are any other comments or questions that people might have. Uh, any theories on the motivations of the Terran people? I think what we saw in the
Oh,
preview was that they believe they're the true inheritors of Earth, and UC and Freestar and all that have lost their way. Does that sound
yeah.
right?
It looks like that they were a third faction that was involved in the Narion conflict, and then left during that conflict. They seem. I think we only saw 2 humans of that faction, and the rest were robots. Which I think this is such an interesting way to go. They could go about this so many different ways. I'm hoping that they had the prudence to tie in why AI. Sentient AI adapters are illegal in the settled systems,
Hmm.
and I hope that Terran Armada is the reason why they're illegal. I think that would be an interesting concept, because they seem to rely and lean heavily on robots to do their work. It seems like there is not a lot of them. Like they are a very small faction. So I think this is going to be something very interesting. I'm looking forward to the character Delta, um,
Mm.
the robot companion that they're adding. That's not good, but not evil either. So probably going to get a little bit darker character. Um, I think I posted this on Twitter yesterday. I have hopes that they kind of use HK-47 from KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, as like a model for developing the character of Delta. I think that was such a good robotic companion that that would be a way to go about doing in making a character a robot companion that's not quite good, and making interesting, funny, and someone you want to play with. So, kind of excited for that. I do like the robot companions. And
Yeah.
I think they have an interesting opportunity narratively to kind of touch upon some hot topic items like AI. Like I know we were just talking about with DLSS, people have strong opinions about this, strong feelings about it, and I think storytelling is the best way to approach when society has like really strong emotional opinions about things. Doing and approaching that through narrative storytelling is the best way to approach that. Like I can sit there and tell you like, hey, let's just use it as a tool, let's not replace people, and people are still going to be angry about it. But if we craft a narrative around this, a narrative approach, I think that's one way. And that's kind of my hopes with this, is that they kind of tie into AI. I suspect that they probably will, because this is a hot topic for society right now.
I would really like that. If I'm personally not like, okay, so I play Starfield, obviously, and there's a lot of combat in Starfield, which I enjoy. I think it's a great shooter. But I really appreciate when I come across a creation or a quest mod or whatever that you can solve without fighting, or it has things to do that are not fighting. You know, don't clear the room, get the key, open the door. If there's some other way, I always enjoy those sorts of things. I don't think we're going to get that with this, so I'm not quite sure how deep they'll go narratively. Like, it would really impress me if they leaned into the stuff that you talked about, like trying to make a statement around AI um, through this. But I'm going to keep my expectations down and just think that there's just well, a couple of things. One is it's going to be combat heavy, it looks like, and the second one is it looks like they're trying to find ways to get you to engage with the super cruise method, because you have to do that to get through these incursions, right? Or is that what they're calling them, where
Yes,
you can't
I
jump
love
through?
how they're doing that, where there's going to be an incursion that shuts down your grav drive, and you have to resolve that. That is such an interesting mechanic. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Watchtower. Watchtower didn't quite do that, where it would like shut down your grav drive. But I do love this element of like, hey, you're going to hop into a system, and then all of a sudden you're not going to be able to jump out because the Terran Armada created some kind of device on one of these planets that disrupts your grav drive. That is
Mm.
such an interesting concept, gameplay wise. I like it. I really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to really playing this. My understanding is Terran Armada is kind of a shorter, smaller story compared to Shattered Space. One thing I would say is Shattered Space actually did make a very large statement about faith and reason and
Mm.
the conflict of the two. So that, like, if you've never played Starfield, maybe you didn't play Shattered Space, play when you do play Shattered Space, pay attention to how the Varun handle faith and reason, and pay attention to where they went wrong. Bethesda is definitely making this statement about that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Shattered Space, it got so much hate. I enjoyed it. The thing is, I think you got to just take these as you got to take what Bethesda puts out as it is, as opposed to what you hoped it would be. Because if you
Hmm.
go in with what you hoped it would be, you'll always be disappointed. I think it's one of the reasons why people are shocked. I think to hear I didn't play Bethesda games before Starfield. I didn't really play anything. Like, the game that I played the most probably over the last like 3 decades since I graduated from college was probably Free Civ, right? And I played that with my kids because it was a fun thing to do, and we could do it remotely and all that, when I was, on the road for consulting and such. So I didn't come into this thinking, "Okay, it's a Bethesda game. It has to have this, this, and this, and if it doesn't, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna make a video about it." to me, it was just like, hey, this looks like fun. I was into tabletop role playing games that were sci-fi themed, and when I saw that there was this computer RPG about it, I thought, oh, this looks fun. I'll try this. So I think that's one of the reasons why it hit so well with me was I didn't come in with any preconceived notions, and I'm trying to do the same with this stuff. Like, okay, they've teased all this stuff, but as far as how it actually plays out, I'm just going to see how it works, and hopefully I'll like it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about Bethesda's games is like they all have different tones. They have different tones to them. Like this is an optimistic sci-fi future video game where it's depicting this very optimistic future where we're basically traveling the world. Whereas, you compare that to Fallout. Fallout's really dark, and they have
Yeah.
to cut through like a lot of the darkness with comedy. They do an excellent job of that. But
Mhm.
this game is going to appeal to a completely different audience. I think I heard Todd Howard in what it was an interview a while ago. He was talking about like someone asked him like, "Do your games cannibalize each other?" And he said, "No, not really." And
Yeah.
that's because like if you showed a Venn diagram of the fandoms, there is some overlap between all of them. Like I like the Elder Scrolls series, I like Fallout, I like Starfield, but most people they have one is their favorite, one's their go-to. And I think that's perfectly fine because at the end of the day, they have different tones, they have different settings. They rely on proc gen differently.
Mhm.
Whereas like Elder Scrolls relies on proc gen the least. I think the only thing they use proc gen for is generating the terrain uh, before they have artists touch it up. But Starfield relies on proc gen the most.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things like you know you might really like Elder Scrolls and like that world that feels that it's been lived in for tens of thousands of years, but you might also like Starfield, where it feels like a sci-fi Western frontier of manifest destiny and settling the settled systems, which is one of the themes I really like about it. Kind of hoping at some point in time they go back and they flesh out List because I loved that faction. I
Mm.
think it deserves a faction quest for it. But they said they were going to continue developing, so I'll be patient. I'll wait for the next update. Hopefully, it's something list related. They add like a faction quest around that. I would be super excited for that. Uh, my
The
cat
closest
is
we've
like
Oh, your cat. Oh, my cat is probably out there
my
somewhere.
cat's been sitting on my lap this whole entire time. She
Oh, that's
refuses
great.
to leave.
That's good. Just as far as list goes, I reviewed Redgrave recently, which is a new paid creation. I love it. It is a list creation, but it's not like you sort of build a colony and then you improve it over time and whatever. It is simply helping a list colony to survive the challenges that they encounter. So, in case
Is that
anyone's,
by the Milk Artist?
yeah, it's so
I'm
good.
gonna have to play that. I'm
The
really enjoying a lot of his stuff. I recently played Kodos Crater. I like that.
Yeah,
That was cheap. I would suggest if anyone's looking for a cheap story mod, you've never bought a paid creation, that's one right there. $3.
yeah. Yeah, Kodos or sorry, Milk Artist and Almighty SC are my two go-to paid creation quest modders. Um, especially, well, both of them tend to add in new mechanics. So, I can't remember which mod it was. It might have been Kodos Creator. Anyway, this is why I do videos because I can't remember anything. But it had you fighting on a train going through a tunnel and just waves and waves of
That's Kodos
enemies. Where
Crater.
is it Codus Creator? So fun. So fun. And so adding in these cool little mechanics, and sometimes it's not combat mechanics. It's, as you activate the dam and the water comes through, you can see the water coming through in these different sections. Like just clever stuff. I just don't know how people figure that out in the creation kit, but it's good.
I believe there's a waterfall in New Atlantis. I think he stole from there to get
Oh,
the
okay.
damn waterfall to go. But yeah, that's probably my favorite quest from the Milk Artist is Vesta, Lost Colonies Vesta. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I think he had some good emotional beats where it was like some very subtle sorrow that was coming through from his voice actors. I think he did an excellent job there. But yeah, Kodos Crater, that combat scene on the train,
Mm,
tons of fun.
yeah.
Like, it's amazing how a very simple level design, basically a straight line with, just two rail cars coming at each other, and you have just an amazing gameplay right there. That was
Yeah.
tons of fun. I would highly suggest it for anyone. It's $3 on Creations, but if you're looking to dive into Creations, that's a small investment to kind of like test the waters of paid Creations, and if that's something that you would want to try out.
Another
Pretty
fun one
decent
for
voice acting.
mechanics. Oh, sorry. Just quickly to mention another one if you'd like to add new game mechanics, the modular explosive delivery system, which adds drones to the game, has been awesome. It has completely changed the way I go into combat now. I'll park out somewhere safe and just start throwing drones and clear out some of the enemies before I go in there. So I really like that one. And that one was fun in Kodos Creator, going down the train, just throwing drones and having them fly ahead and take out enemies. Very fun. And just to respond, someone mentioned if you don't like combat, the perfect recipe and escape have no combat. There's a
Yes,
tiny bit of combat in escape,
tiny bit, tiny bit.
tiny bit, but it's mostly problem solving. And that was a video I
Mm,
just did recently because I went
I
back
would
to
just
it
like to
and played it
say
out.
both those quest mods are by Chris Takahashi.
Oh,
So
there you
if you
go.
like those quests, you like Takahashi's work. He's done a lot of work throughout these games.
Oh, here's a good
I,
comment too. Caves need enemies and other reasons to go into them. Yes. When I was
I
doing my
agree.
POI video recently, I went into all these caves and there was nothing there. So there have been some I think it was the permanent POI series where I think it's Polvo Voss's permanent POIs has been putting. So if you haven't tried permanent POIs, it basically takes the POIs in the game and puts permanent versions in various locations, various star systems. So let's say you've never found the deserted free star collective garrison. There is one to find. You will be able to find it. You just go to the right system and start scanning or whatever. Or even better, if you're on PC and you have Starware search engine, you can put in free star or whatever and it'll search and it will find it for you in the right planet and then you can go straight to it. So if you're
That
trying to find
reminds me.
POIs, yeah.
What do you think about the database that they're adding to the UI?
Yes, that looks amazing. Talk about addressing a pain point for resources and all of that. I definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, that is probably one that's gonna be really scary and daunting to a lot of players, like, "How do I address this?" I think I'm gonna make a video on that day one, 'cause
Mm,
that's one of those ones, it's gonna look intimidating, but, like, if someone explains it to you, you'll find it's gonna be a lot quicker way to navigate menus, to find information about the game. A lot of people will probably say, "Oh, this is just lazy UI." I think it's more of Starfield just admitting it's a big game, and we need to add a database, which is fine. Like, and I think that's probably what Starfield should have done from the beginning. I know a lot of mod authors, like the Compendium, they've done that where they've added that kind of stuff. I'm kind of glad that they're recognizing, hey, this is a big game. It does require a database. Hopefully, the user interface is pretty approachable for a layperson. We'll see how it is. I'm gonna probably make an explainer video on that one day one because I know a lot of people are probably going to get confused by that. I have a little bit of like work background knowledge, so I work with databases all the time. I'll be able to explain it in layman's terms. From what I saw, it just looks like a SharePoint with a couple different views that are going to be, you know. You click on the planet view and it'll show you all the different planets and kind of stuff like that. Click on the resources, it'll show you all the resources. But it's going to make things a lot quicker and easier to navigate. I know that's been a huge pain point of mine is time spent in menus, navigating menus,
mm,
looking for items. So I'm glad that they're admitting, that this is a big game and it deserves a database that's searchable.
yeah. Well, that reminds me that there are two non-combat systems in Starfield, which are immensely popular, which I honestly don't engage with that much, but we know one of them is getting a huge update, which is what you mentioned with the crafting, building around outposts. We know the shared outpost container is gonna. I think it's gonna be much. It's gonna make things a lot simpler as far as trying to build things. The shipbuilder. I don't know if there's that much happening with the shipbuilder, but I would say the biggest outstanding feature that is not addressed and we haven't heard anything about is the ability to manage ship blueprints. So if you're on
Yeah.
PC, there's been an ability to do that. Laurent Kiar, once again, one of the greatest Starfield modders of all time, coming up with these new capabilities to export and import ship blueprints. And of course, if you don't want to do that, if you have access to a PC and you can run the creation kit, you can create your own ship in the creation kit. That's what I did, and I built a couple ships, and I just bring them into my game whenever. But I really wish, in addition to having building star stations, I would really like the ability, a native ability for console players to export and import ship blueprints.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's probably one of the pain points with the Unity. Like, I'm glad they've added that Unity box where you can take like weapons and stuff across the Unity. But something to like save like a template for an outpost, a template for a ship that you've built, and have that where maybe you lose the ship, but you can easily within the ship builder just click on your template, and as long as you have the currency, you can build it. Um, and that's kind of like a weird thing. Like, the Unity needs to have some kind of friction. At least in my opinion, like, there needs to be some kind of friction. I enjoy kind of that fresh start you get from the Unity,
Hmm.
where you have to struggle bus a little bit without gear. But it right now in its current state, there's too much friction. A lot of players get turned off by it. They won't go through it. And I think part of that is, one, the Unity box is going to alleviate that with people being able to take their favorite weapons or favorite gear across the Unity. And then two, I hope in future updates, I didn't see anything in this update, so I'm not expecting it. Uh, Templates, add templates to the ship builder. Outpost builder is going to be really difficult to do templates because you have to worry about terrain as well.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they'll ever be able to do that. But if they're able to do that, that would also be something else. Have a you could just select your template and then pop down your pre-constructed outpost would be amazingly clutch for players, and players wouldn't feel that reprehension about going through the Unity.
Yeah.
And the Unity is. I think we covered it in the very beginning of this video. It's such a useful tool for scrubbing your save.
Hmm.
It's necessary, just the way that Bethesda games are designed. The longer you spend time in the game, the more bloated your save file gets, and this kind of
Hmm.
gives this scrub to it. And it's always been a problem with Bethesda games. Skyrim was like that. You kind of have like a cap of how many hours you can play before your save file becomes unloadable.
Yeah.
Whereas just if you're willing to go through the Unity, that's not a problem with Starfield.
Yeah, I mean, the Starfield save file is a virtual machine. I mean, you'll see references to the virtual machine starting when you start a Bethesda game, and that's because they're tracking the state of every item in the game. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
why the save file increases. I mean, you know this. I'm just saying for people who haven't thought about it. There's nothing you can do about it other than not play. I mean, you can limit it by getting rid of tons of junk in your cargo, personal inventory, getting rid of outposts. Minimizing your footprint in the game. That will make a difference, but the more you have, the longer it's going to go. And as far as like outposts go, I could see a future where if you decided to build an outpost and you built it on like a foundation, and the foundation had a certain scope, like a certain size, and then you could say everything above the foundation is saved as a template, and you can re-import that on a new foundation at a new location. I think that would be possible because you think about it, that outpost is saved in the save file, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
state of that is there. It's just like you said, when you're building on new terrain, you can't replicate it. So you'd have to have something that is a known quantity to build upon, and maybe that's what you would do is have a foundation. Again, I think it's what did Todd say? All things are possible, just not all at once, or something like that. And I think that's the situation, right? It's software. People could figure out a way to do this. It's just a question of how much effort can you put into it. Do you have the time? Do you have the resources?
And that's something that's very exciting for like future updates. Let's think. What else? They added so much. They added like what is it? Model G, the new cute little robot in the well. I hear that's going to be customizable.
Uh, well, let me
Yeah,
ask you. I think
heard it's going to be
one thing
customized.
one thing people asked for we did not get were mechs. We have them in Watchtower to
Mm,
a certain extent, but no player drivable mechs. I think that would just cause the internet to explode if you got player drivable mechs.
I think it's possible now that the animation tools are out there. It's just a
Oh
matter of
yes.
time someone building it.
Yeah,
That's
because
been
it
the
would just be
one
a suit, right?
hindrance. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically, power armor from Fallout, just bigger.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
someone just needs to do the animations for that, and then we basically have it. And those tools, they came out. What was that? It was a couple days ago, like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Those tools came out. So give them a couple weeks to develop that. We'll probably get like a sketchy version in a couple weeks, and then something fully polished in like a couple months.
You know,
But
this
yeah,
this
definitely exciting.
yeah, this could be the perfect storm, right? So those tools come out, suddenly people are interested in Starfield because of all the stuff that's happening with it. I mean, it's possible without this, there's enough interest in Starfield outside of the general players, Starfield player base because of Star Wars Genesis, or yeah, Star Wars Genesis. That was the last sort of big Starfield associated thing to break into everybody's news. Like I went to my eye doctor last month, and he knows I'm a Starfield YouTuber, which was funny. And he's like, "How's that Starfield YouTube channel going?" He's like, "I saw this thing about Star Wars Genesis. What is that?" So that broke into his consciousness. Like Starfield appeared in his news timeline by virtue of this amazing mod list. So I think now though that we've got an update to the game, a new DLC, and we're getting these animation tools, I think we're going to have some people who are on the edge, on the margin, saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a look at that again, and maybe I will try to add my favorite whatever." There aren't, from what I understand, there aren't that many people who are actually able to make animations. Like it's a very small community who does that. But if we get one or two that start doing cool stuff, that may draw other people in.
Draw more, yeah. And also like the port to PlayStation, you're going to get more modders out of that because people will play on PlayStation that didn't play before. They'll get excited and they'll be like,
Hmm.
I want to make my own stuff.
Yeah.
And oh wow, they give the creation kit out for free, and they'll go buy their own gaming laptop or desktop. That's kind of what I did. I mean, I just picked it up. I'm just like, I want to make my own stuff. And so
Hmm.
I grabbed a gaming PC and like, all right, it's enough to run the creation kit. That's all I need it for, and
We're
you'll
coming
have
up
that.
on.
So
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you. We're coming up on at the bottom of the hour. That'll be an hour and a half, which I think is a long time. Um,
oh yes.
but before we go though, do you want to talk a little bit about anything you're working on with your mods?
Right now I am developing a tool that allows you to move fauna from any planet to any planet and also adjust their stats and their special abilities. Some real fun stuff. I found some really fun fields within the creation kit, like herd size, uh,
Mm.
and some of the AI mechanics for fauna. I know I am planning on in the Pytheas system. I am planning on turning one of the worlds into a spider nightmare world, just
Oh
because
no.
people were complaining on Twitter that there was not enough life out there. So I'll make it for you. Just think to yourself, pack hunting spiders that run at unnatural speeds and are extremely aggressive because I can turn that all the way up and I am more than happy to do so. It one of the things I like about video games is when you have those areas where it's like we don't go to this area because it's scary or it's crazy. So it's like I can make that. I can go ahead and cherry pick all the best spider textures out of the game and then make my own custom spiders and have set up the pack size, the herd size to large, and then just turn up their speed, turn up their strength, turn up their health. Oh, we'll make a horrific place to go. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I know once the tool is complete, I'm in the phase of building the UI. I'm going to make the repo public so anyone can use it. That way, anyone that's doing any kind of like custom system creation, one of the problems you'll run into is people don't realize this, but for fauna, there is actually three separate pipelines that all the fauna go through when they're placed on planets. And if you don't have the proper keywords for the proper biome, they just won't spawn at all. So I kind of had to set up some really crazy logic to figure out like what keywords are necessary for like fauna A to go to biome B. So
Mm,
basically, I'm just having the tool automatically do all that back end work, so people can be creative and not
that
have to
sounds
worry
fun.
about like stupid stuff. Yeah, now it's not that fun making those kind of tools. What's fun is going to be watching people play with them and see what they make with them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was doing with that. I was originally doing it just for myself. Then I'm just like, this is extremely confusing. I'm going to make this into a tool so people don't have to deal with like, what did I do? I ended up stripping every fauna form out of the Starfield ESM to kind of
Mm.
figure out and map out the entire pipeline for fauna generation just to figure this out. And it's like no one needs to do that. Like I do data analysis professionally. I can do this kind of stuff, but the average layperson is not going to be able to handle this kind of work. So I'm just gonna build it into a tool. We'll put it out public. I'll do a demo of it where I create like a crazy spider world, kind of like the DSLL demo where I turn everything up all the way, and it's just a demo. It's just to showcase the power of the tool,
Yeah.
but it'll be fun.
So you reminded me. There's a couple of points around animals and creatures in Starfield. They are so amazing, in my opinion, but you never get to see them unless they're dead, right? You shot them, or that's about it, right? Most of the time you're at a distance because you get too close and these things attack you. Suddenly you're in combat. You're not appreciating the creature models. Like it really became apparent to me how amazing they were looking at the Starfield Visual Compendium, the book that was published.
Mhm.
Um, and the second time I noticed how great they were is in the Sammy creation, where Mark Wahlberg made a special appearance as Sammy. So funny. I talked to the modder, and he said, "Yeah, I actually did model Sammy's voice on Mark Wahlberg," which is funny. But in that mod or that paid creation, which is expensive, but it's so creative, I think it's totally worth it. You are up close and personal with so many creatures, and you get to appreciate just how amazing the artists, what an amazing job the artists did when they created these. So I would encourage anyone to take a look at that. So that kind of reminds me, if anyone out there would want to make a Starfield zoo, I think that would be awesome. Like maybe it's outside New Atlantis or whatever, but a way that you could walk up to these creatures and just look at them and see how awesome they are. I know uh, Ghost Rider 231 sort of did that for a video for Xenomaster, where they put all of the creatures in one location and you could sort of walk around. But that would be a neat thing to see, like a Starfield zoo where you could walk up to these and just really appreciate the amazing detail that are in
Yeah.
these creatures.
Yeah, there's tons of detail. I know that comes down to like there's a temperament field on there where you can basically make them docile if you
Mm,
want to. Like the critters are docile. You can walk right up to a critter; it won't even do anything. But like a lot of the predators or even prey, they'll eventually aggro. Like if you get too close to them,
yeah.
that kind of you stirred a thought. Like maybe I should make one of the worlds where everything's very docile and very
Mm,
peaceful and you're not being attacked by the wildlife and kind of cherry pick some of the more detailed wildlife and plop it on there and kind of make more of a docile world. I might
yeah.
do that. I
Especially
think I could do it this week.
if the creatures were normally aggressive, and so we'd never get a chance to look at them basically because you just can't get near them. That would be really cool.
That is definitely something I can do.
Awesome. All right. So anyone else? Any questions? I'm trying to scroll through here, and uh thank you so much everyone for joining us today. This was a this was a bit of an experiment. We weren't quite sure. This was our first time using actually anything, right? Like I had to investigate how to do this properly. I thought YouTube would just make it easy, no problem. But no, I had to, get a setup with StreamYard. But hey, I think it's worked, it's worked pretty well. And hopefully the time
I
was
think
good
this
for
worked
people,
very
both
well.
coasts and the UK and all that. Cool. Any closing thoughts, Eclipse?
Closing thoughts. I am super excited for the future of Starfield. That just being said. Just where modders are going with this game, where Bethesda is going with this game, their ongoing commitment to this game, what I'm seeing within like player base with looking at what creations are getting played, I can tell that this has a very healthy modding community. It's being played a lot, so I'm excited, and I can tell Bethesda is going to continue working on this game over time. Probably be some sketchy periods where we don't see anything for like 2 years because they're busy, but I'm excited to see what happens with this game as it goes into the future. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're going to hit the next milestone that I'm tracking is we'll hit 5,000 creations. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to hit because I'm sure creators are pulling back. And in fact, there has been a kind of a pullback for creators recently because many of them knew that this was coming, so they've been holding off.
yeah,
I talked to several who were waiting to see what new mechanics were going to be in the game because they had ideas, but they didn't want those new mechanics to overwrite what they were doing. So I think once the game comes out, we have the new mechanics. I think you're going to see even more things coming out from modders. So, if, just as an example, Cordic recently updated non-lethal framework and useful brigs. I know he has ideas for other things that are outside of what the update's going to have. So we're going to see, that on the modding side. I'm also, I track the downloads on Nexus mods. I'm waiting to see when Starfield moves from 11th place up into 10th place of all time. Like right now, it's 11th place both for number of mod downloads and for number of mods. And of course, yes, the list is dominated by Bethesda titles ahead of it. I don't think you're ever going to catch Skyrim, which has something like 2 billion downloads. I mean, just
it's
Skyrim.
absurd.
It's absurd. It's great. I mean, I'm totally happy for
Yeah.
Skyrim, but it's just an example of you can't compare anything to Skyrim. I don't think it doesn't make any sense. So everyone who's making that false
Skyrim's in a
comparison,
completely other ball game. It sold
yeah,
64 million copies. You would be hard struck to argue that it is not the best RPG of all time. They hit lightning in a jar with that, and
yeah,
I don't know if Bethesda could ever replicate that. And that's kind of like a little bit of my concern about Elder Scrolls 6 is a lot of people are going to be like, why isn't this as good as Skyrim? Like Skyrim was it was the right game at the right time. Like it just
yeah.
hit everyone's like buttons perfectly. And everyone enjoyed it. It was like I don't know many people that hate Skyrim. I don't. You never played it before though. I don't think you have.
Yeah, it's funny. I own like all recent Bethesda titles. Whenever they went on sale, I bought them, but it was strictly just to assist me with trying to learn modding because there were so many tutorials for Fallout 4, Elder Scrolls. What is it? 5 is Skyrim. So I bought them, but I basically never played them. I played like the first few minutes, just so the mods would populate and I'd be able to open them in creation or whatever the creation kit version was with those. But yeah, I played D&D as a kid, like a billion years ago,
Yeah.
but I'm not the fantasy genre just doesn't hit with me. I much prefer the sci-fi stuff, which is funny too, because I basically never use powers. I don't even think about it.
Here's the thing, I'm a huge fantasy junkie, and I will tell you right now, I lean straight into the space wizard. You're
Hmm.
talking about using like drones for combat. Here's me, I'm just going straight starborn powers, gravity well. I'm a full on space wizard flying through like POIs. But like that's one of the things I love about Starfield is how different play styles emerge.
Yes.
Like Skyrim, one of the problems of that game was like you got pigeonholed into like a stealth archer play style. Like 95% of people played that way. But I
Hmm.
watch people play Starfield and I see people play very different. Some people play it as like a shooter. Some
Hmm.
people play it like you're playing it where it's like kind of like a tech shooter where you're
Hmm.
using like technology to kind of do that. And then you see like also this weird kind of space wizard gameplay emerge where you're leaning into starborn powers. Though I would say if you do like the Space Wizard playstyle, Dark Star is definitely something to pick up. I think it leans really heavily into that Space Wizard kind of gameplay style where it amps up the difficulty to necessitate using those starborn powers. Because, like, in the base game, you use starborn powers, it's so OP. But if
Hmm.
you download something like Darkstar that ups the AI and the aggression, ups their hit points and everything, it becomes something that's necessary. to like get through points of interest. So, and I like that. I like how modders are taking different approaches to like end game experiences. You see stuff like Darkstar, you see stuff like Starvival, and then I see players like Swerve who's trying to jam Starvival and Darkstar into the same load order, where it's like this weird survival game, but it's also like crazy Starborn powers at the same time. So it's just like infinite possibilities. And I love the diversity of gameplay and how many people can be under the same roof and enjoy this game. Like some people, they just do the outpost building and they walk around, and it's a very cozy game for them. I do that myself at times. Like I want that cozy experience. I'm just going to sit there and decorate my outpost, take pictures and stuff. But then other times it's like I want high intensity action, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, that reminds me, I haven't been in the shipbuilder for a year, maybe. I don't know how long it's been, but that's something that you could just do that and just work on ships, like you said, do the same
A
with
lot of people
outposts.
do that.
Yeah. I just thought of one thing we should mention. I noticed in the StarSim Discord, some of you may remember StarSim was this mod that came out a long time ago. And then they talked about like basically building a whole new economy system within the Papyrus scripting language in the Starfield engine. It is still going, and they still plan to release, and they are not daunted by what's coming out. So if in case you're looking for like galaxy-wide simulation of economies and such like that, that's supposed to be still coming out. So just jump in their Discord if you're interested in that.
That is something I'm interested in. So I'll have to jump in their Discord and see what they're building.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. One thing I'd like to say is with the shipbuilder, I know that they are adding a lot of new ship parts, including equipment. There's several different equipment pieces that are going to change how your ship behaves in combat and the different abilities you can do. So that is definitely like if you're into shipbuilding, they have a lot of stuff coming for you in this. So you'll
That's
be able
good.
to change your ship around, and finally we'll have that cruise mode. You'll be able to fly it around through your planetary systems.
Yeah, YouTuber ship technician, if you're out there, I'm going to need new videos about what the best ship builds are. All right, I think that is it for us. Starfield Eclipse, always a pleasure. A lot of people have been asking us to do this again, so we'll have to figure out some kind of cadence, and we'll do another session.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us. I've been Richard Presents, and this is Starfield Eclipse, and we will see you in the Starfield.
Have a nice one.